Welcome to another episode of Clarity in Crisis. Good morning. Welcome to Angie Speaks. Here we are focused, dogged, deliberate, and determined to become the next best version of ourselves. And in that effort, we have invited Dr. Gloria Brown, whose 20 years as a psychotherapist and a life coach will give us some nuggets to help us navigate the current crises by giving us some clarity. Last week we discussed forgiving ourselves, self-forgiveness, which is so important to the process of forgiveness. We often hear about you need to forgive, but very often we don't hear that first you got to start with yourself, loving yourself enough to forgive yourselves. So good morning, Dr. Brown. Thank you for being here. And as usual, we look forward to a robust conversation. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning, Angela. It's great to be here.
Awesome. I have a burning question, by the way. It's a burning question because I've asked it and I asked it in the group and not many people could answer. Since we're talking about forgiveness and forgiving others, is it possible, Dr. Brown, to forgive a dead person?
It certainly is, because forgiveness has nothing to do with the other person, whether they're alive or dead. It has more to do with you and dealing with your feelings connected to that person.
Forgiveness has nothing to do with the other person, just it has to do with me. So are you saying, but you know, that sounds a little selfish. At least to me it does. Because if it only has to do with me, why does it only have to do with me?
Well, it's an interaction that happened between you and another person, and you are the person who were hurt. Now, you are deserving of respect and of love, and if the other person doesn't give that to you, then it leaves feelings in you that you have to deal with, and the person is clueless. If they're still alive, they're going around hurting hundreds of other people, and if they're, then they can't hurt anybody else.
Oh, so it's not an issue of selfishness, it's more an issue of self-care, it sounds like.
Taking care of yourself.
So taking care of yourself, loving yourself, self-care. So can you tell the audience again what is involved in this process of self-care, the self-care triad, so to speak?
So the self-care triad, a word I'm going to give you credit for coining, means taking care of your body, your soul, and your spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Taking care of your body real quick is making sure that you eat properly, you rest, you exercise, you do the things that help your body to function effectively. And you need that for yourself. You need that to help other people. You need that to follow through with whatever plan God has for your purpose, whatever purpose He has for your life. Taking care of your soul is taking care of your mind, your thoughts, your will, your intellect, your emotions, your imagination. These are important because your thoughts govern, from my perspective, whatever is going on around you. And certainly connected with that is how you feel. And your feelings have much to do with not only what's going on with you spiritually, in terms of attitudes, things you can't touch, but also it affects you physically if you don't take care of your soul. And then the spirit, you take care of that basically by trying to be aware of what kind of forces are influencing you. Is it loving or hateful forces? And that will come out, that will show itself in your attitude.
So the self-care triad is all interconnected. We can't separate one from the other, in other words.
No.
Okay, so my burning question that I started off with is, can you forgive a dead person? The reason why this is so dear to my heart is because this past weekend, my family came over and my sister, who I love dearly, when we were in Jamaica, our parents had left us in Jamaica with her aunt. And we had a moment, this past Saturday where she had a memory, and the memory of the abuse that she endured caused her to start crying. Now, my sister's in her 40s now. My aunt has been dead for at least 10 years. It's been a minute. But the memory from her being beaten and being able to point to the different sores on her leg broke my heart all over again. Actually, I didn't expect to respond the way I did. I thought I was always sorry that my aunt died, and she died from cancer, and it was really a horrific thing to watch. But seeing my sister break down this past Saturday and me remembering the moment in time where I felt completely powerless to defend her, because I was about maybe 12, maybe 13, and my sister may have been, I don't know, maybe 8, 9, maybe. And all she did was, I think she dropped her roller, set her, it fell through on the floor in Jamaica and ended up in the cellar. And my aunt beat her and told her to go under there. Now, under that cellar in Jamaica has all kinds of critters and dirt and muck and mire. And she beat her so badly. And she, this past Saturday, was pointing to the different sores on her leg that my aunt had inflicted on her. And it just made me so sad, and it made me wonder, is it possible to forgive a dead person? Because I had feelings I'd never had before, and I said something that I'd never said before, which is, she needed to die. And this is like 10 years later. So that's why this question came up for me, because while forgiveness sounds like such a grand and noble thing to do, this Saturday revealed to me that I still had areas of unforgiveness in my heart. And then I started wondering, I follow Jesus, at least that's what I say, but here I am saying she needed to die. Do you have any insight on this, Dr. Brown?
Well, I would say, well, first of all, I'm very sorry to know that you had to go through that, and your sister. No one should have to go through that kind of pain. But even though, we forgive people, the forgiveness isn't always complete and instant. Sometimes we have to forgive people over and over and over again. It's a choice. And it's a choice that doesn't depend on how we feel. It's a choice that needs to depend on the principles that we use to govern our lives. And as Christians, the principle is love.
The principle is love. Now, I get that. So what you're saying is that forgiveness is something that we have to do. It's a process. It's not one and done. So and like you said, it's a choice to make over and over again, every day, until we are free of the hurt. But sometimes you think you're free of the hurt, and some situation like this Saturday comes up and you're like, wait a minute, she needed to die. Because I thought I was free of the hurt. She probably thought she was too, and all she had was a memory. And then you have to start the process all over again to decide over again to forgive. It really is a challenge. But I read a quote this week. It says, in the shadow of my hurt, forgiveness feels like a decision to reward my enemy. But in the shadow of the cross, forgiveness is merely a gift from one undeserving soul to another. That helped me this week, because I can think of the things that God has forgiven me for. And sometimes I break down over that too. God, you've been so merciful, so gracious to me for all the things I've done. And yet, when it comes to another person, I tend to want to hold them hostage to the violation. And that's really what it is, isn't it? A violation. So Dr. Brown, what examples do you have? I'll give you one example in your own life where you had to forgive and it was hard for you.
Well, I think right now I can think of one thing, and that was when I went for my interview at Columbia University, and the woman there told me basically I didn't belong there because I didn't fit the stereotype that she wanted me to fit. And she told me she was going to make every single effort to get rid of me. Basically, I saw that as her, she might as well have taken a noose and hung it around my neck. She was trying to kill me because
powerful statement. It might as well have been a noose around your neck. That's pretty powerful. That's
yes,
pretty graphic.
Well, education was my link to a better life. And if you cut that link off, you're killing me, just as sure as you hang me. And so I was extremely angry with her, ready to kill her, literally, because I was actually just coming out of the service, you know? So I had that fight in me, and I told you that I was a combat soldier. Going through the gas chamber and all that kind of stuff, learning to use the gun, yeah, okay? I found myself at a crossroads, you know? And basically it was like, oh, if you're gonna kill me, then I'll kill you. That's just logic, you know, and whatever happens, happen. But of course, you know, I had children and I had to think about that. And so I chose to turn to God to ask for help. And I asked him to show me some evidence. And he did. And so, because, and the fact that I was thinking about killing someone didn't feel too good to me either, you know?
I mean, I was killing her and it didn't feel good to you too, either, okay?
So I would say I was on the way to becoming a Christian, so I had some sense of what was right and wrong, and I didn't feel good about that. And so I asked God to forgive me. I felt that he did forgive me. I was no longer running around feeling angry, guilty, any of that stuff. I just wanted to get to work. And so
how did you know that you forgave her? What made you think that you forgave her?
Well, she no longer became an issue in my life. I didn't spend any time thinking about her whatsoever. I left her to God. And that was the best thing that I could have done, and it's the best feeling that I could have had.
So I have another juicy question. Is there a difference, or are they one and the same? Is there a difference between restoration and forgiveness? Because sometimes you can feel like because you forgive somebody, somehow you're letting them off the hook. Yeah, I hate to feel like I'm letting people off the hook. So what's the difference between forgiveness and restoration?
So forgiveness, again, basically is freeing yourself of all the negativity that comes about because of whatever that action was. This is something that you choose to free yourself of by forgiving, by pardoning the person. You know, same as presidents pardon prisoners in, you know, when they come out of office, you pardon that person. That's forgiveness. Restoration is that person has recognized that they've hurt you, is sorry for hurting you, and is asking for another chance, and restoration is you giving them that chance.
So it's my choice to restore.
Your choice. Now, on the question, you brought up a third thing about you don't want to pardon anybody. You know, forget about that. Okay. Well,
pardon sounds too nice. It's feeling like I'm letting them off the hook. You know, you did something really crazy, and you just think that I feel like when I forgive, they're getting away with something that they should be punished for. You know, it's that issue of justice.
Well, Jesus Christ died on the cross a horrible death.
Mm-hmm.
And he died for people who didn't even care. And he said, I am doing this for these people because I don't want them to live an eternity in hell. Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. And then when you come to him, he turns around and forgives you. Listen, none of us are without issues and problems. I know we like to think of ourselves as being the best thing since apple pie, but we all carry some nasty stuff in us because you can't live in the world that is so hateful. And we have enemies. See, we don't know we have enemies. Sometimes those enemies come at us when we're too little to even know what's happening. But we have enemies. And those enemies lodge in our heart, creating all sorts of bitterness that if we let it go to the full extent, we would not even recognize ourselves. God forgives us, and he commands us. It's not optional. As Christians, he commands us to forgive other people.
By the way, thank you, Chelsea, for joining our session here. She said, love is patient, love is kind. Thank you. Well, so it sounds like in order to really combat this issue with letting people off the hook is to put things into perspective with how God forgives us. And that right there is a process in and of itself, because first we have to have that foundation. So people, and me included, would have to work on the foundation with my relationship with God first before I can even start thinking about forgiving people. Is that correct?
Yes. And the other piece, thinking that they're getting away with something. No, God says, vengeance is mine. I pay it. And we can't be more just than God. God is perfect justice, so he knows exactly what to repay, when, and how. And so in terms of the other person getting whatever we think they deserve, we have to leave that to God to do. That's his business.
May I learn to surrender continuously. So tell me something. Can you give us some tips on how to forgive others?
Yes, well, the first thing is that we have to be aware that we have faced a situation that has affected us in negative ways.
Right.
Sometimes we're not even aware of it, that bad attitude, the bad things we say to ourselves, illnesses that we go through, heart attacks, strokes, cancer. All these things come out of anger. These are symptoms that come out of anger, you see? And once we become aware that basically we are running around with poison in ourselves, we need to be aware that we are poison, and if we don't deal with that, we're going to spread that poison to other people. So once we are aware of it, the next thing to do is to make a commitment to do something about it.
First, we have to be aware, then we have to make a commitment to do something about it. And what's that something?
Well, the something is to be willing to go through the pain of looking at what's happened and sorting out the truth of the situation. And once and doing that with either a very trusted friend or a professional person. I would tend to say a professional person is best.
Right.
Why? Because your confidentiality is absolutely guaranteed. It's not going to come back and bite you if your friend no longer decides to be your friend.
Yeah, confidentiality is important. Yes, indeed.
And then also, you need someone who's skilled, who can understand human behavior and who won't be putting unnecessary guilt on you.
Right.
So you need to seek the support of a trusted friend or a skilled professional. And once you choose somebody, you have to really trust that person, because you might hear things that you don't want to hear, things that makes you furious. And you know, you might go from 0 to 10 without even realizing it. You're not angry with the person, but your anger comes out and the person doesn't have time to figure out all of that stuff because they want to be loved too. You see? So
right. That's why it's important to have a professional person to help you to navigate.
Yes, yes. And that you can trust. Understand again that the experience is going to be difficult, painful. And as you go through to look at that situation from different perspectives, okay, that's one way of doing it.
Right.
Eventually, you're going to have what I call the aha moment. And that moment is going to be, oh my God, all that pain I put myself through, all this time that I've been carrying, all of this negativity I didn't need to carry. How many other people have been affected by this? How has my life been affected by this? And the thing that will happen a lot of times is you're going to get angry. You're going to get angry with yourself. Why did I listen to that for so long? And why did that person do what they did to me?
Which requires us to forgive ourselves all over again as well.
Yes.
You can't forgive anybody if you can't forgive yourself first. Okay. But when you're a child, though, I got to stop. I got to interject here. When you're a child, this idea of forgiving myself, I can't forgive myself for being a child. I mean, my sister was a child. I was a child. I couldn't defend her. I could barely defend myself. So if forgiving yourself is the main thing, or the first step in the process of forgiving others, I don't see how it applies if I'm a child.
Well, it doesn't. Okay?
It doesn't. Okay.
As a child, first of all, psychologists and all these research people say that it's not until we reach the age of 23 that we have capacity, our thinking capacity. Well, everything up to there is going to be tainted because we don't have full access to our ability to see something reasonably. And back to the child again, because this is important. The child depends on adults. The child is not responsible for itself, okay? Adults are responsible for themselves. And it's important to make that distinction. What makes it difficult is that emotions don't have a sense of time. When something triggers us, we go right back to when we were that kid. And we have all those feelings and feel stuck.
Right.
But what we're able to do is come back. And with the help of a skilled person, you come back. And then when you come back, this adult is hurting, has done things, feels bad as a reaction to what happened to them. So therefore, you recognize how unnecessary all of your pain that you carried as an adult was. And that is what you forgive yourself for.
Okay, so the violation as a child leads you to, as an adult, without you even being aware, to make choices that further exasperate the pain, and you start to blame yourself for some of the choices that you make, not realizing that some of it, or a lot of it, is attributed to the fact that you were violated as a child. Oh gosh, this is a vicious circle. And so in order to heal, aspire, and grow, you have to learn to forgive yourself of the adult choices that you may have made as a result of being violated as a child, so that you can make progress in your life. Otherwise, we continue to make choices that do not prosper us or do not serve us well. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yes. And perhaps the easiest way to understand that, to get in touch with that, is when you find yourself in a situation that you find yourself in many times, and you say something like this to yourself: I can't believe I did that all over again.
So let me repeat that. You're saying whenever you hear yourself, either consciously or subconsciously, because you know how sometimes I do this. I have subconscious self-talk. I'm not aware that I'm really saying what I'm saying. The thing to listen for is when I say, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that again. Is that what you said?
Right back to this same situation. Why do I keep coming back to this thing? Because it was not resolved.
Because it was not resolved. So you keep repeating the same cycle.
Or partially maybe resolved.
Wow. That's powerful. So the child is trying to forgive them, cannot forgive themselves per se. They have to forgive themselves for making the choices that the violation may have caused them to make as an adult. Powerful.
Well, the child isn't doing that. The adult is doing that.
The adult is doing it.
Making
once they become an adult, because they become aware. Awareness is a very big factor in this whole process, apparently. So where did we leave off? You said we have to be aware. We have, in order to forgive, we have to understand the conflict that's going on inside of us, and we have to make a commitment to explore the situation, seek support of a trusted professional. And what's the next one? Number 5, recognize the importance of being able to trust your friend or the professional that you've chosen to guide you through the healing journey, because we don't want our stuff ending up on Facebook, of course. Number 6, what's the next one? It says it's important to understand that you will experience the process as painful at times.
Pain is a part of the process, and don't run away because of the pain. Don't attack somebody else because of the pain. Sit through the try to understand it.
Sit through the pain in order to understand it. So not only do we have to remember the pain that happened to us as a child or whenever it happened, but then we have to confront it again and sit with it. Because a lot of times we're trying to escape pain. Nobody wants to sit with pain. Well, you're saying from a professional perspective that we have to be willing to sit with the pain.
Sit through. Sit through the pain. Don't stay there.
Oh, get through the pain. Okay, don't get stuck in the pain. There goes that theme of being stuck again. Stuckdom is no place to live. So, it's my book, by the way. Please pick it up. Peace Beyond the Splinter. Reclaim your promise of peace and profit from anxiety's grip through prayer. In there, I talk about this idea of being stuck and how to gradually release yourself from stuckdom. Because if we're stuck, we're not making progress and we're not living the best version of our lives. So where did I leave off? So as you begin to gain insight into the problem or about the problem, you'll find it easy to disconnect from the situation. Along with that comes anger with yourself as well as with the offender. So that's part of the pain process, correct? This takes work, Dr. Brown.
Oh yes, serious work. But the rewards are great, because what you get to do is live the best version of yourself.
And isn't that what we're about here? To live the best version of ourselves, to become the best version of ourselves, and to be stronger than the splinter that is in our lives. And the eighth one is the need to forgive, the need for forgiveness that arises from ourselves and others. There's a need for us to forgive. Actually, you know, that's true. It takes this load off. I can personally attest to that. For the times when I have forgiven, it definitely relieves me of a burden that I don't want to necessarily carry. And then, are there any other tips that you want to give us for this process of forgiveness, Dr. Brown?
Well, the last thing is to know that it takes a while.
It takes a while.
And don't count. You'll become discouraged. Count. In
Don't
fact,
count the days.
Jesus says, don't count how many times you forgive. Somebody asked him, well, listen, how many times is it reasonable for me to forgive? And he said in Matthew 18:22, 70 times 70. And I looked into that because, I was multiplying. And I reached this number, but that 70 times 70 is a symbol for boundlessly, limitlessly.
Boundlessly. Just forgive and forgive and forgive.
And
in this climate of racial injustice, gender bias, unequal pay, domestic abuse, we need such clarity. Are you saying that forgiveness is the key to navigating the crisis? Or is it at least one of the keys?
Well, forgiveness will be a key for some people. Depends on your principles. Not everyone shares the same principle. In fact, I have a friend, a dear friend, who's Muslim. And if I ever say the word forgive to him, he goes off. Okay?
Really?
Oh no. Forgiveness is not a part of that reality. It's vengeance. Remember I said to you before, you kill my dog, I'm killing your cat, I'm killing your kid, and I'm coming for you.
Woo! That is a lot of vengeance.
Well, yes.
And yet, according to another quote I read, it says, forgiveness is a funny thing. It warms the heart and cools the sting. And that is so true. And I'm hoping that for the people who listen to us today, that they choose, as well as myself, that I continue to choose the path of forgiveness. Because while it is difficult, it is the process of giving up all hope for a better past so that we can live in the present and continue to strive to be stronger than our splinters. Dr. Brown, thank you for your time today. I appreciate it. Should you need some support to forgive, please join our support group in our community, or you can reach out to Dr. Brown on Instagram. Her Instagram account is askdrmom_, right? Ask_Dr. Mom. Am I correct? Ask_Dr. Mom. You can also join us in our community group, Angie Speaks Stronger Than Splinters. We're more than happy to support you in your journey to become the next best version of yourselves. And let's continue to forgive, because really it's the only way for us to leave stuckdom and to continue to become the next best version of ourselves. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you next week in another episode of Clarity in Crisis. Thank you, Dr. Brown. I appreciate your time here today.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.